Well, I've put the old flat cap on to come to the most historic water ever in carp fishing history. This is where it all kicked off, really, just down below us here. I've come along with Stevie Broad to show you some of the tricks and methods to try and outsmart some of these wary old carp. What do you reckon, Steve?
Well, I just want to go and have a look at the place. Let's go down and have a look.
Let's get amongst them, eh?
Yes.
Here we are, sat on the downwater Redmire, probably the most historic view anywhere in carp fishing. It's where it all started, really. There's been legends sat on this very same seat and trod these footsteps and chased these very same carp about. The fact that you can see them means they can see you, and you really have to adapt your rigs, your presentations and the way you go about your fishing here, unlike anywhere else I've ever fished. And it really stands you in good stead for future sessions anywhere else you happen to be, because of your fine-tuning your rigs and the way you approach your angling. We've done well, Steve, haven't we, in 2 nights here?
Yeah, we've done really well. I mean, in 2 nights we've had 9 fish between us, and out of those 9 fish there's been 5 20s, which is just a fantastic result.
Superb. Who happens to have caught the most so far?
Me.
Oh, you did? All right. Thought we'd get to that one fairly quick then. So what you had?
I had a 23.5 for common, a £20 8 common, another little 18 which was a common, and then right out of the blue just this afternoon I've had a linear, a brown 15, a nice mid-double, a lovely old fish.
Yeah, most of them are commons in here, aren't they? They have been for years now.
Yeah, there's only very few mirrors left in.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen 2 or 3 and that's been it. Properly in the countryside out here, there isn't a noise or anything. All you can hear is the tractors just working the sides of the valley around us. It's really peaceful. But the only thing we've got to worry about is catching some carp now.
This place has seen some monster carp and caught in this very small pool. It's what, 2 acres, 2.5 acres?
If that, yeah.
Dick Walker's legendary £44 common Clarissa. A few years after that, Chris Yates with a £51 plus linear. You know, what's come out of this pond is absolutely amazing. At the moment, I believe there's 2 over 30 that get caught. There's a linear that's not been caught for years and years, but apparently is around somewhere. And even in a small pond such as this, you know, Yates' fish went on a missing list for 10 or 11 years. So the chances are there's an odd one that gets caught very, very seldom.
Yeah.
There was a big common appeared that hadn't been out for a long time that turned up at 37.
Yeah, you can't believe though, can you, that they do manage to get away with it.
You can see them all, but mind you, I would say that a lot of the fish, when you see them on the surface, they do look smaller than they actually are.
It's always a surprise.
Presentation's got to be absolutely bang on for these fish. This weed that's sparse around, and the session we did prior to this one, there was a lot more weed up. But where you can't see it where it's on the bottom, it does appear to be covering most of the bottom of the lake in straggly bits and pieces, which isn't too bad, but if you can imagine the fish's eye view of that, it's sticking out like a sore thumb. It's like tow rope going through a swim. It's all up and down, all over the little strands of weed.
Yeah, you can't effectively hide your lines at all, can you?
That's right, and it does appear to be paramount in here.
Yeah, and the fish are really aware of the lines being through the water. As soon as you start fishing, that's it, they're at the other end of the lake.
How many times we've had it so far, you get 2 or 3 bleeps, you look out, there's a massive sheet of bubbles, like someone's let a Coke can off under the water there. And I think if that's it, the fish have done with. They've done the bait and off.
Straight in, add all your food and
Thanks
gone.
very much, and they're noticeable while their absence in the future for the next couple of hours until you put some more bait in, recast it, check your rigs and whatever.
So you have to be on your toes all the time. You just have to really concentrate about getting it right. Very
cute fish. But what I would say one thing about this place, though, if you can get it right on here, it makes your fishing on other waters a lot easier, because you're fishing for really the most cutest fish that do know what's going on there. I mean, it seems all peace and tranquility, but these fish are some of the most heavily fished for fish in the country.
Well, they do. I mean, they get fished for every week.
Since the 50s.
Week in, week out.
There's been 4 blokes on here all the time.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, though. Some of the way you'd normally fish, the rigs and that have to be adapted to especially to suit this sort of fishing, don't they?
Yeah, it's difficult combating the weed and combating the fish. It's a real difficult thing to deal with altogether. For
myself, the shorter hook links work better, because you've not got the bait hanging up in the weed, maybe 6 inches up and sitting on its own. It's all down amongst the silt, and also a large amount of bait in areas, but small particles, baits, broken bodies, pellets, the usual particles, the hemps and the sweet corns do the job well, because you're just winning over their confidence. The fact that you've got a lot of massive small bait there, and hopefully you're going to trick one into thinking Yeah, but
that's
get
it.
over his confidence.
If they come in and they're bobbing about the place, feeding all the time, steering it all up, then
They're
they will.
making it harder for
Yeah.
himself with that cloud gun on there. But if you've just got one bait sitting on its own, I'm not saying it wouldn't do a bite, because it does. We all know that. But the one bait sticking out on its own has got less chance of being picked up.
Yeah, well, they've seen it all before, haven't they? So they know what
How
that,
many times?
that single bait is
For
there
sure.
on its own.
Yeah. Right, Steve. You say you've had 4 fish there. Let's hear about how you've caught them.
Well, I mean, I was lucky to begin with. I'm fishing right up on the islands, up on the far end of the west bank, and there was a lot of fish present on the shallows, so you could see them grubbing about. And
Clouds coming up as it does.
oh
up
yeah,
there.
a bright orange coming up, bits and pieces, bits of weed.
Does get you going, doesn't it, if you see that going
Oh,
on
it was
there?
going.
You think it's going to be a piece of cake, don't you, every time?
And I just basically I flicked a single peanut out, and with one pouch full where it landed when the foam popped up off the hook, when
Right.
it popped up on the surface, pouch full on it. I did the same on another rod, and didn't really expect a great deal to happen. But you don't. You're only 2 hours into your session
right,
on
yeah.
Redmire, and you're like, "Ooh." Just sat down. One rod rattled off, picked it up, bumped the fish straight away. Before I even had time to throw the rod down and have a
Discuss
little
and jump
stand,
up and down, yeah.
the tip on the other rod flew round, and that was that. The
Sure.
first Redmire carp.
Easy as that.
Yep, 23.5 pound. I was well chuffed.
Excellent. And then a strange thing happened later that night, didn't it, Steve? With that
Well-
two-tone, the common carp, 23-ish.
Yeah, I was really chuffed with my 23 and slipped him back. 2 o'clock in the morning, Danny Smith had it. Exactly the same fish,
No
4 hours
way.
later.
Isn't that strange that happens?
Well, I mean, the thing is, that fish was obviously having it. He
well
was
on the
really
munch,
on the
wasn't
munch. Well, they're really having it in the evenings. My first fish was in the evening, and then you had one.
Yeah, they're all playing the game, aren't they? There's been, I think Dan's been the only one in the middle of the night, the rest of them have been at afternoon evenings.
Oh, it's a nice result, that.
Isn't it just? We're all awake and alert. But no, I'd put the bait out for the night like you do, about 7, half 7. And within an hour, it had rattled off. It was on an absolute mountain of pellets. I made a mistake though. One thing I'll never ever do is that I mix the two in my bucket, the big ones and the small ones.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
what happens there when you catapult them out. The
A
little
little
ones
bit.
land nowhere near where you want to fish, and the big ones do, or vice versa. Anyway, back to the van, got some more pellets, ladled it in there. They must have had 3 or 4 kilos on it.
Oh, a good
Like,
dose.
just what we were saying about this trying to outsmart the fish by putting a massive
Yeah,
bait
get
down
'em
there,
feeding
winning their
heavily.
confidence over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was no prior line bites, bleeps or fizzes went off over it. He must have just crept in. We believe there's about 6 foot of water there.
Yeah.
The sun had just gone down there, so the evenings were doing the bites. Although I didn't expect one at that moment, as you don't, do you?
No.
You know, sometimes you
No,
do see him mooching
just
through it. but this
promoting
one
a
just didn't
food,
do. Sneaked in there, hoovered it up, 100 miles an hour bite. It was a £20 10 common.
Oh.
Yeah, one or two of the fish have had a little mark here and there on them. I think they've just been spawning up here. No, they're absolutely
Yeah.
pristine, aren't they? No marks in the mouth
No,
to
there's-
speak of. Most
They
of
are
them.
absolutely immaculate. There's just, like I say, the odd scale that's out of place, and it's probably due to spawning a few weeks ago, but
No,
they're
no.
beautiful fish.
But when you get put that net over them, they're even more special, aren't they? Because a Redmire carp's a Redmire
Oh,
carp, and that's
definitely
it.
the one. Definitely the one.
You can tell, can't you, even without knowing where they come from. As soon as you see the fish, without someone telling you, you know it's a Redmire fish. The Redmire carp, look.
Well, you've been before. Does it change much each time you come, each time you see it?
Sure does. It's noticeable the lack of weed at this time. The previous session we did, we came 3 or 4 weeks later in the year. It comes up ever so quick.
Right up to the surface.
That's right, an awful lot of it. And it just each presents the same problems in a different way about getting rid of your line and make yourself less visible to the fish.
Yeah.
If we just go and see how Aaron got round it last time, you'll see the difference. We're round in Climo's now with Aaron. What did you do to get around this problem?
Yeah, well, when I first turned up here, I thought I'm never going to get my line tight to the bottom and get it out of the way. So the only thing I could do was cast off on the front of this weed.
Yeah, that edge there, the fish do move closer, don't they?
Yeah, it's a good spot for them, and I thought try and keep the line up, like mimicking float fishing. And the way I went about this was I got myself a cork ball, slid it down the middle,
Yeah, cut him up, yeah. I know.
slid a good swim's depth after plumbing it. It was about 4 foot. So
Yeah.
I marked her up there.
Bang on the spot, so your line's straight up right, yeah.
That's the way. Flicked her out there, almost mimicking float fishing, keeping it well out of the way, just flush to the weed.
Yeah, and as the fish come in on that, of course, like float fishing, they lose sight of the line. There's that vanishing point there somewhere.
Yeah.
On a short hook link.
Yeah, that's the way. I thought it might do the trick. I mean, that's the only way I could get around this place. This
Sure enough,
particular
it did. So we'll see from that wet waste thing there. You did have one last night.
Well, I did. I mean, I baited up nice and early, got my toys out there before I moved back out of the dam, and sat back, had a few beers like you do down there and a glass of red wine.
Yeah, nice barbecue meal and all that.
Very nice, very nice. And just about to nod off to sleep, around about 12:30, off you popped, not even a notice of a line or nothing, just tore off. I got up and hit, struck into her, popped straight up on the surface, really
well
quickly.
lucky to get across that weed.
Yeah, and that's what I was
It was
worrying about. I
murder.
daren't let it get down in there. So
Hated it.
basically held on for all I could, and she eventually popped over the net. And it was a little known carp of these places. They call him no pelvics, I believe.
One of the two.
Yeah, and it
70-odd-year-old.
amazing, amazing. First Redmire carp, and I catch that. I couldn't believe it. It's £24 as well. It's lovely.
Tops. And it proves the method works as well. Straight
Brilliant.
away after doing a night before with nothing.
Magic.
It's important just to suss it out as quick as you can so you got
Yeah.
enough time in the end of the session to prove yourself right.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure enough. Can't say more
Magical
than
place
that.
and a right result from it.
Isn't it just so? I mean, people think it's exclusive, this place, but you can actually book it up. Anyone can.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
It's not the cheapest week, but on the other hand, if you're a carp angler, you have to visit this place. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It sharpens up your tactics, doesn't it?
If you're a footballer, you'd play at Wembley. If
Exactly.
you're a carp angler, you want to play here.
You have.
And I've done that.
What do you think of the place, Az?
Well, I've been here a couple of times. I think it's great. It really is. It is lost in its own time, this place.
It is in a time off, isn't it? Went up Russ and White a little while ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Get some supplies. I was glad to get back down here to the real world amongst those, away from those normal people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the sort of place I'd love to come. I'd hardly recommend it. It's not an easy lake by any of those.
Just
but-
sharpen up your methods,
but-
doesn't it? You get a bit complacent on the water,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
The old carp, and each time you come down here, because they're so visible, you're going to cane them, don't you?
yeah,
But they've seen it all before. They're just smiling at you, dotting about, and they.
certainly are. I mean, third time lucky. It's taken me 3 trips to get a bite, let alone land one.
There you
So-
go. You pulled out one of the
But they
bumpers.
are possible. They are
That's
possible.
right.
And it's well worth the trip.
That fish Aaron had was one of the real old originals.
It was 2 in here at the time. The other one was raspberry, and that later that summer he died. You could see it was swimming awkwardly on the surface, but so it was 70 years old.
70
He's
years.
had a good innings and he is a carp, and that's probably the most famous of the carp.
Yeah, it was one that was photographed a lot.
You know, I mean, I was fortunate enough to catch him on the first day of the season one year, and just holding that fish, you just. Well, if you could talk to him, he'd be able to tell so many stories of the old boys and these old flat caps that lifted him before. But mind you, he must have been bored, mustn't he, swimming up and down here? He must have known all these fellas. Must have had a few punch-ups and disagreements, mustn't he?
Yeah,
With
arguing
some of
about
his
the
mates
food.
here. Well, he's got to have done it, but what a carp, though. To hold him here, it's one of those respect moments where you can't wait to get him back. Thanks for the memory, mate. Off you go, and it sends a shiver up your spine. You know, there's not many carp ever going to do that.
Proper old character.
Oh, it was. It never got much. I don't think it was above mid-20s, low to mid-20s. It was 23-12 when I call it. But historic moment in fishing, you know.
Well, last time you came with Brian, didn't you? How did he get on?
Yeah, Brian Hankins, yeah, little Lionel. Hello, Brian. We've been around to see Aaron, and he's told us about how he got round this problem of the weed clinging to the line, and how that's what putting the carp off. Being wary of the rest of it. And he's got a problem there because he's got weed for 15 or 20 foot out in front of his swim. I noticed where you were, you didn't have that. So how'd you get round it?
Well, I got here last night and it was a bit late when I first got here, but I fancied the evening pitch. I've never really fished it before.
It's a famous swim, though, isn't it?
Fished it a few, fished Redmire a couple of times in the past. Caught 1 or 2 nice carp out of it, but never fished in there, so I went in there, just got set up before dark, and I found 1 or 2 clear spots. The way I hid my line was just a simple method that I often use, and that's just a couple of shot up the line.
Yeah, 3 or 4 foot up just to get it out
Yeah,
of the way
that's
in the
right,
vicinity
yeah.
of the fish and that, yeah.
Yeah.
Simple but effective, though. You got one, didn't you?
Yeah,
As you would.
woke up this morning and I hadn't had one,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh dear, and then a few minutes later I'd had one, and all the
Sure
world
enough.
was marvellous again, really.
Hey,
Yeah.
the Lincolnshire carp machine strikes again. How big was it?
18.7.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Common
nice
carp,
thick
was he?
carp, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron's was a no pelvics, one of the famous 2.
Yeah, mine's
after-
probably not quite so famous, but a Redmire carp nevertheless.
Yeah, well, just a bit of light baiting, was it?
Yeah, a bit of bag mix. Found a clear spot just in the edge. Fished a few chops over it. Club mix chops.
Yeah, that's the thing here. They're often sneaking about the edges because when you're trying to fish the middle, these holes in the weed, your line's at 45 degrees through it, isn't it? No matter
Yeah,
they're
it
going
stands
through
out.
it, but they're just not going to pick it up because it's right in front of them.
Stands out like washing line most of the time.
Just as soon as you get a chance on odd fish that are patrolling the margins, then you are trying to fish the majority of the fish you see cruising through the channels and that.
Yeah, that's right.
Paid off,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, it's a good, little, simple little method. One that split shot, depth charges, lead core, anything like that does, but the simplest method is most effective. And with them being split shot, you ain't getting like a lead core, you get the straight line going over the humps and bumps. With the split shot, it settles, doesn't it?
Yeah, it follows any contours on the bottom, and also it's not tight on the line, so it's always going to come off if you get snagged in the weed, or it'll
sure enough.
slide down to the uplink and not give you any problems when you're trying to land them.
Yeah. And Brian being Brian, flicked a handful of peanuts, I believe it was, at the time, flicks it down the margin, sat back, put a handful round it. Within minutes, well, as he said on the video there, 1 minute he hadn't caught one, next minute he had. And I believe that's been the same for Steph up here. Stephen come down here, he's mooched around, found himself some fish that looked like they could well be catchable and feeding.
Yeah, it was right up on the shallows.
That's right, flicked a bait on there, before you know it, you got one under your belt.
One on the bank,
That's
simple
right.
as that.
Yep. And before you knew it, you had two on the bank. Same sort of fishing, you know, not sitting there, same sort of approach as I've got there with a lot of bait out. Yeah, Steph's managed to catch a couple of fish that he didn't actually create the feeding area, he just sort of had a look round, poked his nose in bushes and over reed beds, saw the area they were feeding rather than to make his own, flicked the bait on it, kept down quiet.
Yeah, nice single bait where it wants it.
Exactly that, so all the approaches do work on here, it's just a case of adapting to the methods as each day goes by.
Yeah, it's good that you can just get up and have a little poke around if you feel
That's
like
right. It's
that.
not just the usual sort of fishing where you just suck behind your rods, which is all well and good, but this just shows you there are always carp to be caught on these waters, you know.
Yeah, you've got a chance somewhere at some time.
It's just how much effort you want to put into it.
A lot for a Redmire carp.
Don't you know?
Yeah. That surface was really bad last time you were here. Let's go back and just see how you got round all the little problems that it presented you with.
The method I'm using is a little bit more awkward to set up, and it takes two of you. The stakeout clip, one that I first saw being used to great effect by Kerry Barringer on Savvy. The reason he used it was to draw a fish away from the snag. He clipped up next to it, and the fish ran the opposite way. By the time you pick the rod up after a great big drop back, which is what you get with this setup, the fish are in mid-water, safe as houses. So the reason for me using it here is that no matter how quiet I am, the fish know exactly what I'm doing. With all this floating weed and the scum up the surface there on the shallows, with this method I can get the line completely out of the water and fish the other side of the lake. Last night I used it to great effect, almost, in that I had a take, had the fish on 20 minutes or so, it was over the net 3 times, up a 20 common, and sod's law, the hook came out. Set the clip up. The best way of making the thing in the first place is taping together 2 matchsticks. We found that works best as the wood grips the line. Then tie that to the end of a tall bank stick, whatever's necessary to get over the margin on the far bank. You then cast over to where you want to fish, walk round where possible, and get a friend to keep the line tight, lift it above the water. I normally put the bait on the other side myself, just in case, you know, cast over just a lead, just in case it should end up in some bushes or in the tree or whatever. Keep hold of the line, drop the bait in, and then clip the line up between the matchsticks. While your mate tightens up on the line, you'd be surprised just how much it will take actually on these clips. You think, well, that tension on the line will pull it out, but it doesn't. Even in a big wind, you just get a bow in the line. And once he's in there, he's generally in there to stay. A few handfuls of ground bait, bag mix and broken boardies around it on this particular water should do the trick. Well, it's set up now, and the evening's drawing in, and as tradition goes by Redmire, the fish do move up the shallows in the evenings, and sure enough there's 1 or 2 showing there now. So it's important to get the thing done when it was quiet, and not give the fish any hint of something going on, because they are ever so cautious. As the evening comes in, hopefully there'll be a few more fish moving my way, and we're all sat up there ready to rumble. We'll see what happens.
That is a wicked method, Steve. It really is a good one. The reason I haven't actually used it this year is because of the lack of surface weed there. It was a case of keeping the line out of the way to stop all that collecting on
Oh,
what
right,
looks
yeah.
like tow rope going across the surface, you know. And that leads the fish down to the point of danger and bugger off out the way.
Yeah, it's not quite that bad now, though, is
It
it?
sure isn't, no. I did lose a fish on that method last time around. That's
Oh,
why
it's-
keep up your sleeve always,
Yeah.
always. You know, what's going up and down that other margin opposite you
I've made a note of that one.
is ridiculous, you know. And also, it helps if you're fishing near snags, because the tension's coming from that far bank, when the fish take the bait, they run away from the snag.
Right, yeah, bolt away from the point of
That's
pressure.
right.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're out your bed, put your shoes on all the time in the world, wind down into the fish, bump in the middle of the pool, no problem at all. But
Always handy to know.
You wouldn't believe the amount of fish that are swimming around opposite where you're fishing. You might not be making any noise, you think, but
Yeah.
they know you're there. And on here more than anywhere else, it's just like that. They're sneaking around all over.
Yeah.
But that one, they can see it fairly obvious you're nowhere near. And they do think they've got a free meal there.
Yeah,
the little
nice.
patches there, you can present the bait perfectly. You just literally drop it in the water and then leaving it to be.
Yeah, nice way of presenting one little trap and keeping it all
Different. It's
tidy.
just different. Right, tell us about some more of your fish then, Steve.
Well, I had another one. It was a nice £20 common and cracking fish, real classic lines. And it came from casting over to the willows that you can see at the top end of the lake.
Right.
I was like fishing 3/4 of the way across, put a bit of bait out. And
Yeah, what was
nice.
that? Red herring?
I'd put a mixture of pellet and crushed boilies because
Right.
there's like a lot of silkweed on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I wanted to rest on top of it, not
Yeah,
in it.
through it.
So everything was crushed and
Give them something to root about
Yeah.
for.
I just put a single pop-up over the top.
Yeah.
Found him up, so he just sank nice and slow and rested on top of that.
Oh, is that short hook link as well, the same as I've been fishing?
Not massively short,
Oh.
I mean, but still,
It just depends on the swim, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
you get the idea in your head. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. When it lands, you think you're either in a fairly deepish bit of weed or just straggly weed.
yeah, but I'm fishing light
The deeper-
leads and letting it sink down tight.
Right.
And I don't think it lands with any force and digs in. I think you can get away with it a bit on top of that silt.
Yeah.
You know, getting away with a small lead and probably a 6-inch hook link.
Yeah. I mean, for areas where you see the fish moving about, you want to put a bait in there just because there's got that much attention to a certain little weed bed or whatever it be.
Oh, well, they're going backwards and forwards.
The way to do that, I think, is just a slightly longer hook link. So you know you're in more weed than you
Yeah.
ideally want to be. At the same time, you've still got to have a bait out there just in case there's too much
Yeah.
activity in an area. With a longer hook link, it tends to hang about over the weed rather than the short one, which will pull it straight through it.
Yeah.
But-
But it worked.
That's right. The straggly weed, without a doubt, I think the short hook link works.
Yeah. Yeah, punch it in it.
That's
yeah.
right. It doesn't do what people always say on here, that it gets buried in the silt. The shorter the hook link, generally, if you can get away with it,
Yeah,
does
it's
the
in
job.
there where they're feeding as well.
That's right. Right amongst them.
Well, here we are in Climos with John, and John's settled in now, got the rods out. You moved earlier on, John, a couple of days ago.
I was fishing the Oaks, but I went in there and I think the fish had already moved on when I turned up. And it's fairly restrictive in there, so I came in there, there was a bit of water in front of me. And also you were getting them, Dan was getting them, there was a space in between. It seemed fairly obvious.
So you've been in this swim now for 24 hours and just had a fish. What went on there then?
Well, it was, I put the rods out, had a good look about, and just found clear areas between weeds. And fished 3 rods in these clear areas on different baits to see what was going on. And that one took off around a growler.
Can't beat a good tiger knot, can you?
No, it's always handy. You always keep one rod on them just in case.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it went. It was a good fight. They certainly used the weed.
Yeah. Had you bait out 24 hours without moving it?
Yeah, I hadn't touched it. I was then thinking of doing it. I was then, funny enough, saying to Len, is it covered in silkweed, this, that and the other? But I knew I was on the spot, so it should have been okay. But I think they play about with it, so it's worth checking
Yeah.
it now and again.
There's always those doubts when you're fishing in weed that your rig hasn't been picked up and dragged off into the weed.
And also, I think a lot of the time you're fighting against the fact you're pulling yourself in a weed with the leads
Yeah.
and the short rigs we're using. Because I've seen your lines are fairly tight.
Yeah, I've put indicators on and fished just as normal. I was noticing that the slack lines were picking up drifting weed, and as they started moving across the surface, they'd pull tight at various spots throughout the lake, going over bits of weed. I thought, well, I might as well fish straight down to them, and I've got lead core on 6 foot,
That's right.
so it should be hidden the rig end anyway.
If you tighten down carefully, you can actually feel your line pulling down against the weed.
Yeah.
So I think it's the best you can do, and the lead coil's going to take care of it once it's there. Well, you've been knocking a few out there, haven't you, Steve?
Yeah, I've managed to sneak another couple of fish out, which is really up the confidence levels again. But they've been coming out on just small 10mm single pop-ups.
Have you seen the fish in the area?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time up the tree, and the second day we were here, really, this full day, and noticed that they use the same route on and off the shallows. Always the same route.
Yeah, I was trying to get them going on floaters. They'd barge them on the route, but they wouldn't take anything. Did they creep up on the upbaits, or did you see them in the area?
No, you definitely see them in the area all the time. There's a lot of fish about up there. They seem to spend an hour on the shallows and then come down here into the main part of the lake, and backwards and forwards all day long.
Yeah, is there any good ones up there?
There's a couple of really nice fish. The very thick, heavy-set fish knocking about. Dan's seen one, and I think I've seen a different fish knocking around. So it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, there's certainly some good ones jumping in front of me, but they're showing everywhere. They certainly move about a lot.
Yeah. They're doing a full lap of the pond several times a day.
Yeah.
You doing anything special with your rigs, John, or just
No, I think
bog standard?
I'm up to the same as most people. It's just a light lead. On that one, it's 2 ounces. Because the bottom, again, is firmer than you think. You always think this is going to be like a muddy pool, but it's not. So as the bottom was firmer than I thought, I was just fishing a short hook link about 3 inches.
Yeah.
Sticking a load of foam around it, so the upbait certainly won't be masked.
Yeah, I've been using the foam a lot as well, just to convince myself that I have landed it on the spot and I can line everything up, and it's a good confidence booster.
Yeah, it's right. I think they just visit the areas, have a quick go at it, and then go start the circuit again, taking in other baited areas as they go.
Well, they certainly like it. There's no doubt about that. Every spot that we're preparing's, getting fish on it straight away.
They're not scared of bait, they're really blasé about it. And I think once you come to terms with that, I think we'll start catching more. Now there's more bait going out.
Yeah, we're all baiting quite heavily now, putting a lot of bait out, and within a few hours the fish move straight in on it and are feeding away, and then all of a sudden the swim dies and the fish have gone, written you off.
You worry about using pellet because you think everybody comes down here and uses pellet, but it's what they're used to seeing.
There's natural food to them now.
Yeah. As soon as we put it in, they come along and eat it. Same with most things. Don't have a problem with it. And Dan's certainly getting results on boiled food, so...
Yeah, well, we'll have a wander across in a second and see what Dan and Lockie are up to, because Dan's been having a few fish out, so we'll go see what he's doing.
Here I am with Dan in the historic Redmire punt. Got a couple in, Dan?
Yes, mate. I'm well happy with that. Thought, one would do me, but...
Yeah, was that
two.
First one though, wasn't it? 23, we didn't need to wait, because Broady had already caught it, hadn't he?
Yeah.
3 hours before.
Yeah.
Worked that one out.
Mad. I'm right down the other end of the lake to him,
Yeah.
Similar tactics, but, you don't expect that, do you?
Yeah, that was on the boiled food though, wasn't it? Rather than the peanut he caught it on first, so he's on the munch, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely on the lookout for it. He's still in this area now.
Yeah.
Still just been out and had a look around. He's still
Two-tone
swimming around there. Two-tone on one side, you can't miss him,
Where'd you get that little spot in the edge, wasn't it? On a little clearing?
Yeah, just noticed literally 20 yards out, slowly starts going off the edge there. A couple of little spots there, little clouding up. First night it was just like...
Plonking out there. Because they are cute, aren't they? They do know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, they're not moving, they're there,
They're sitting
fizzing
there.
up, but they're not moving.
Well, they can clear up, and we've seen it more than once in this week, haven't we? The freebies out there. The upbait is sitting there plain as day after a little while. They've just moved, come in, moved it up.
Knocks and all
Might
that
get a liner if you're lucky, mightn't you? Look down and have a look every now and again, and it's all gone, isn't it? By the hook bait.
Yeah, they finished up and said, thank you very much, and cleared off.
So the little rigs and that been done the job.
Yeah, little
Real short
rigs,
links.
little tiny rigs, no more than about that sort of long.
Yeah, a couple of inches.
Couple of inches.
Just
it's a
a
little
trick
bit
on there.
awkward because it's obviously not the hardest bottom in the world in that while I'm fishing, but
They're grabbing about in it though, aren't they?
They're
Nutting around,
in there.
picking up the bits and pieces that are around it. And
that's it. They're in there. They're feeding. They're just quite blasé about it because they get away with
they
it.
do seem to know that, don't they? When the bait goes in, they're not shy of it, are
That's
they?
right. They're not shy of it.
They've got away with that many times.
Yeah. They've seen every trick in the book.
It does seem when you got a little clear area where you've got no weed there, you can get the line on the bottom a little bit, and they come in there and there's just no room for manoeuvre, is it? A short rig.
No, that's right.
Once it's in, they've got no room to move off and decide it's wrong, and it's too late, then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to get them. You know, but
and even then, it's not that easy, is it?
it's presenting it as well. It's
That's
like
right.
a nightmare in itself.
Yeah.
But
No, it's very interesting.
As you can
but,
see what's going on, it does make it all the more.
Yeah, well, this is it. This is the trouble. I mean,
Oh,
if you were
try
sitting here, you weren't seeing no fizzers, you weren't seeing no clouding up going on.
You'd be convinced you're still
like,
sitting there not feeding.
You wouldn't know.
Same as most lakes for
But-
fish. It's nice to be able to observe it on here.
That's
isn't it?
right. You know they're coming in.
That's
you know
right.
they're eating it, and they know they've done you. You know.
Yeah.
And you're permanently messing about, but that's what it's all about. you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, some of these areas you can put the bait out and leave them there and create a little feeding area.
Yeah.
A lot of time it's opportunist fishing, isn't it? Walking
That's
around,
right.
seeing where they're moving, seeing where the clouds are
A little
going.
tiny spot on the edge, you'll
Yeah.
see they keep visiting that little spot, and you sort of, you're near enough stalking every fish
Yeah.
you're catching, aren't you? Really.
Right enough, yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether you're casting out or in the edge, every fish is like, you know, been watched for sort of
Yeah.
thing.
And they'll eat most baits when they're all nighters. You get the impression they're clearing up everything,
Yeah.
just
yeah.
about.
They give me whatever you got,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're loving it.
That's a game for a minute almost. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
little bait there. Look, there's a nice big lead there. There's a bit of tubing
Right.
on there, we'll
Yeah,
see.
let's see what this is.
You do end up getting
Yeah.
tricky, don't you? I mean,
That's right, I've seen that one before, yeah.
yeah. So was that the second one? That was towards the dam, was it?
Yeah, along the dam here, there's just a small spot.
Was that a 20?
Yeah, 23.
Yeah, 223s.
Yeah, yeah,
Touch.
it was 23, yeah. Just see it keep visiting a spot on the edge there, dribbling a little bit of food in there, and just chucked
Yeah.
it across from where I am. And
That's it.
then,
That's the spot where Dick Walker caught Clarissa, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The old willow.
Yeah. No, it's nice.
Changed a little
nice
bit,
sitting
but,
in there and yeah, thinking about things like that. No, it's lovely to do that. You know, be able to cast over them. You know,
Wander
everything's
around, have a look,
sweet
see
and
where it
that in
is.
there, that's
Put a few
right.
handfuls of bait on top
Keep
of
your
it.
eye on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
What was that? The casters, wasn't it?
yeah, just little handful casters,
Yeah.
a couple of, you know,
Couple of
on
little
the hair,
plastic ones on
literally,
there.
just a little bit of foam as well.
Yeah.
And
So I think the other thing on here is you can get away with using baits like that because there's no other fish other than the gudgeon, which ain't going to mop up much.
yeah, I mean,
There's
I've
just
had a
carp
couple
and
of
eels
eels,
here, and that's that.
but you know, you ain't worried about that.
I've seen
are
it
you?
with the first thing that arrives in the area is the carp, though, isn't it? Being
Yeah.
they're the biggest, so anything else around, they're mushing them out the way.
Yeah, I mean, the eels are they're coming in and picking up whatever's there, but if you've got a big bed of bait in, the carp are straight on it, thinking,
Yeah.
if there's a small amount of bait there, I'm not going to really,
That's right.
you know,
It's
it's not worth my effort, not worth my risk, but if
They
there's
take
a lot of
enough.
bait
It
goes
does
in,
win their confidence over.
you've
And
got a small bit of bait down there, the eels,
Yeah.
the eels are the only things that are clearing it
that's
up.
right. I mean, they'll feed on that bed of bait there until they're not confident with the few that are left there, won't they?
That's
They're
right.
mopping up the most of it, and then when it
Yeah.
gets too tricky for them, they're just swerving
Yeah,
it, and there's
that's
another
it.
bed of bait somewhere else for them.
Yeah,
to
they've
mop up, haven't
earmarked a group of
But they're soon on it, aren't
boys
they? They
and
really are
whatever.
aware of what goes on here, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really cute. They're really,
Yeah,
very
it sets up
cool,
your fishing
yeah.
for other waters as well, Dan, doesn't it? So you go back from here thinking you treat all carp like these carp,
Yeah,
and thankfully they don't seem always quite as cute, or you don't get the you can't see them
that's right.
as much to presume they're as cute.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But they are, aren't
But that's
they?
right. But if
You
you're
know?
fishing for the same on these other waters the same as you're fishing here, then you're a better angler when you leave here.
Yeah,
Without a
definitely,
doubt.
definitely. You know, all these small waters, heavily pressured, you know, if you can sort of like have a result, be
That's
consistent
right.
as
Then you
well,
go away with
then,
spring in your
you
step,
know,
don't you?
You've done really well.
Yeah.
But, no, they are tricky, especially like on situations like this where you haven't got that much of a hard bottom to present.
That's
Really
right.
cute little diddy rigs and
That's
stuff
right.
like that. You know, it's,
And with a weed about, you can't mess around with like
Stringy weed
longer
and
hairs or things that slide and bounce
Right.
around. You
hanging
can't
up
have.
and all that. Forget
That's
it.
right. You just got a box standard basic and hope that it's in there short enough
Yeah.
that they haven't got enough play in it and movement.
Manoeuvrability.
It's too late by the time they've sucked it in. That's that. But
And that's the end of them, yeah.
that's all you can do, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you just got to be cute as well, but yeah, it's finding different ways. I mean, I've been popping short links straight off the lead, so you know, I'm just assuming on the spots out there that they're sticking above
Yeah,
an inch or so, and
that's it.
you know, I caught an eel last night like that, but the carp certainly weren't that evident in my area last night. So,
Sure enough.
but no, it's a lovely bit of fishing, though.
It is. I mean, a couple of rods of mine there, you tend to make it harder for yourself as the week goes on. Two of mine, I've got sticks that have been in the water for umpteen years,
Yeah.
pulled them out, snapped up straight-ish, so rather than putting out your angle tube in, I'm just leaving the line,
Yeah,
wound them and put them on with a couple of its cable tie,
yeah,
elastic bands and that, just opening that hook link. The hook is sitting close enough to that twig.
yeah, yeah.
They don't see that as any danger, so they're going to come around and nut around on that, pick it up and not see what's going on there.
That's what it's
Rather
all
than
about.
the tele, because magnifying it up, what you see as a piece of 15-pound line across in front of you is bad enough. To them, that's like tow rope, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Especially
it's like
with,
washing line hanging across their
that
swimmers.
sediment, isn't it? Settling on
Yeah,
your line as well.
that's
It's
right.
just showing up a mile up.
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried about lead core as well. I mean,
Yeah, I mean the thing
I know
is it
you're
on the
not
bottom, Dan? That's the
not
thing,
gonna
you
go,
know.
What are you on about? But because you know, it's going across things. It's a straight line the same thing
Yeah.
all the time.
That's right.
You know,
And if
even
you've
a
got
couple of
weed
little
there,
BBs
if you've got
along, just
weed there,
normal line.
it's sort of hanging up across that as well. It's not sitting flat
That's
on the bottom
right.
as you imagine it, is it?
It's all
Unless you can
angles
see
and
it.
that. Weed's all lying amongst itself. It ain't straight
That's
angles.
right.
You know,
You
these fish ain't stupid. You see that a mile off.
That's for sure.
See it a mile off. No, very challenging, though, isn't it? You know?
Isn't it? It does test you, but there's fish to be caught here day and night, aren't there?
Yeah, same as most waters really is. There's always a carp to catch somewhere in
That's
the lake,
right.
you know what I mean? But
So they're the interesting lakes you want to fish, aren't they?
yeah, they are.
You know, the harder they are, it's very one-on-one here, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Personally,
is.
you know, you
That's
see where
right.
one's visiting, wait till he's
Yeah.
done the off,
That's
drop
what
the
I mean,
bait in there,
stalking
when he
everyone,
comes back,
innit?
that's right, and it's
Yeah.
like outwitting the fish, isn't it?
It's not like casting out hoping to bag up. You're working hard for every
Each fish, that's right, and as we've seen here, how many times I've sat in the hemisphere and thinking, well, they're not really feeding at the moment, all of a sudden I've heard a buzzer go off, and
Yeah.
lo and behold,
Yeah.
Steve's in again,
Yeah,
or,
Steve's away. Yeah,
you know,
something's
there's
happening
carps to be
somewhere,
caught
innit?
somewhere here,
Yeah.
all the
That's why the
time.
pitches are obviously called different pitches, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
you catch them down there 1 minute and then down there and then, you know,
elsewhere, that's right, the main bulk of fish might be charging up down the middle in the heat of the day,
But they're
but
visiting it,
in
they-
those short, shallow spots under the trees and bushes and stuff, there's always one or two sneaking about having a
Yeah.
bite to eat, isn't there?
that's it, they're always visiting a couple of little areas, you know.
Yeah.
They may be, like you say, in the main body of water, but they may travel right down the other end of the lake to visit that one little spot.
Yeah,
They're-
you can note them fish going one or two will
That's
have been.
right.
I mean, these fish in here have always been pristine because they've just been spawning. You're noticeable by the odd scale mark out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and you can see the fish at one end of the lake visit the other end of the lake in
right.
2 minutes flat, aren't they? Just
Yeah.
cruising along.
Yeah.
Nose down there.
Have a little.
10 minutes later on, you'll see the same fish cruising around here, just minding its own business.
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, they're so mobile. It's a joke. And you know, reacting to the sunlight and that so
Yeah.
quickly, and you know, the showers so quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a small water, and obviously, you know, you can expect that, but not that.
That's what it is,
quickly,
isn't it?
You know, it is literally like
Yeah.
that, isn't it?
I mean, they're ever so good at getting rid of your rigs as well, aren't they, when they do come onto them?
Yeah.
But yesterday evening we sat in Marcy, didn't we?
You know, I
and
mean, it's so obvious.
a couple of
So obvious.
a couple of bleeps.
Yeah.
You look there, the line's flicking, and every other water, you wait for that to develop.
Yeah.
Over here, you just get a big cloud of bubbles come up,
And you know.
and you know you've been wiped out.
right.
They've got rid of it, and those 4 or 5 seconds you were getting the beeps and line tighteners, wherever else you're hoping, instinct tells you, oh, it's a line bite. They're hoovering up the bait and they're just flicking their tails and fins of it in it. That's going to develop into a take.
Yeah.
That was the take. The line
That's right.
tightening 3 or 4 times was
Like
it.
we were saying,
Good night nurse, isn't it? And that's the end of it. And they don't visit again, do they?
No,
Until you
that's
put some
right.
more bait in, and
Anywhere
maybe
else you'd be like
recast,
that.
and in they come again. That's right.
you'd be striking on them, but it's so hard to represent your
Yeah.
bait. You know, you're thinking,
Without-
well, that one got away with it, but you know, the next one might not. It's so awkward getting
It
it
is
where
just
you
split
want
second
it.
decisions in here, isn't it?
It is. Should I eat that or not? You know, they might
Should
eat
I
that
recast
spot
on
for
it?
the rest
It
of the
might not.
night, not to bother. You know.
That's right. And you, sure enough, you pick the rod up and it just goes back into thin air over your shoulder.
That's right.
Line as limp as a spaniel's ear hole.
Yeah.
You just said to yourself, well, I should have let her develop things. It was only a line. I knew it was anyway. But
Yeah, that's it. You're in them sort of things. I mean, switching over to running leads and things like that, obviously, sort of. You know, you just
can
think
make a
it'd sort of
difference,
make
but-
a difference, but you know, we've tried everything,
yeah,
haven't we?
but you do the trickiest things you like, and you can convince yourself that the bigger the better bait, the better they'll be. You know, feeding on that and hopefully
Yeah.
make the mistake. And then someone else will chuck them out. Like Steve just
It's
wanged over a pop up on its
sporadic,
own,
isn't it?
chucks one over. 10 minutes later, it's off.
Yeah, that's right. There's no sort of like method that's outscoring.
No, just
It-
but they all work, don't they? They all work. All different ones
all
work, and
methods
as
are working, but
clever as you want to get, that will work. And
Yeah.
you're sort of patting yourself on the back, aren't you?
yeah, and
Because you've outfoxed him and outsmarted him.
that's right. No,
But
it's,
the same way the old method is chucking a single bait out there. Also, it's about the way I want to catch them.
it's not the way I
sooner
want to
learn
catch
that
them as
you
well.
want to know what they're doing
Well,
and
this is
just
it.
outthink each one.
Yeah,
That's the way.
yeah, not take the sort of like the one that comes along every now and again. But you know, we've been trying everything, haven't we? Can sort of, you know, vast beds of bait, if you like, bait that's scattered around, so they're picking up individual baits,
Yeah,
singles,
yeah.
you know,
You name it. But it does seem to
everything.
be that causes the biggest interest is the big bed of bait in it. They come
Yeah.
over that, the real tightly grouped bait.
Yeah.
In they come on it,
Yeah,
and you've
They
done
like
well.
that,
Caught a
thank
couple
you.
of fish out the bag of it.
yeah.
Nice one, Dan.
Definitely tricky fish, but yeah, I feel I'm well chuffed. I'm really am chuffed. Like I said,
Hopefully more to come, isn't there?
yeah, hopefully more to come.
The weather stayed with us this week, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's been nice. It has been nice.
Could have been red hot, but it stayed
Couple of
carpy weather.
thunderstorms, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of
Just
bit
to
of
liven it
hail
all
on
up.
that slowed it down a touch, I would have thought, but
Cleared the air, didn't it? Got a bit
Cleared
muggy
the air,
before
yeah.
that.
yeah, should kick off again very, very shortly.
Let's hope so.
Yes, mate.
Nice one, Dan. Anyway, I'll nip round and have a chat with Steve now.
All right, mate.
He's hauling up the other end, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's having it off big time.
Isn't he just so?
Good old boy.
Mind you though, Dan, it's always quality, not quantity.
Well, yeah,
Do you know
so
what
the
I mean?
girls tell me.
Don't mess the average up. The average is 23 so far.
Yes,
Plenty
mate.
more big ones to be pulled.
Yeah, lovely.
Nice one.
Cheers, mate.
Excellent. Well, then probably 4 days on Redmire. It couldn't have got any better than that, could it?
Not a
Just
chance.
couldn't.
Not a chance. Excellent. Just fish and action, but hard won fish.
Yeah, it's all one-on-one stuff, isn't it? You know, you've got to pit your wits against that individual fish or group of fish coming into that little tiny area and make sure your trap's set perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, you can see them, that's the trouble. You can see the whites of their eyes and know what they're up to.
That's right, and how many times have we seen it this week where the close-in spots have been absolutely hooving up the bait, not a scrap left other than the hook bait sitting there as plain as a nose on your face.
Yeah, I mean, you can't believe it. All that food in there.
Don't even get a line bite, do you? Not
Oh, they
even a
do the
twitch. It is, yeah. When I talk about line there, John forgot to mention that he'd sat and watched him swimming around his braid for a couple of days before he decided enough was enough, changed to nylon, and I think it's with the filaments in the braid pick up all the little bits of algae in the water.
Yeah,
It's
and
like washing line going through the swim, comparatively for the carp, you know, and it's they're laughing at you, aren't they?
Yeah, but you wouldn't know that in normal angling
That's right, and
circumstances.
it's
You
happening all
wouldn't
over.
see it.
That's
Yeah.
right. It's changed over to fish straight away. Nylon says
Well, but he learned to adapt, didn't he? He saw there was a problem, changed it,
exactly.
had a fish.
Yep. Dan also, I mean, he's had no pelvics this morning. The 70-year-old, the oldest carp in living known memory.
A proper
You know,
old character.
Can tell some tales, that one, can't it?
Oh, God.
That's now the only original carp left in the lake, and the same carp that Aaron had caught on our previous visit. He only actually comes out a couple of times a year.
Yeah, well, good angling, though, from Dan.
Yeah. And Dan's tried all sorts there. Dan is the rig technician, and he's fiddled around there like the professor there is. He's had everything going but the white coat on here. And it does seem on here that the best methods have been the overweighted pop-up. Because
Yeah.
if you are in that strand of weed there, the fish, if it's a real critically balanced one, will waft that about and it get caught. But on that an inch or so, overweighted pop, it's just moving that away. So you're such a small amount of movement.
He knows it's safe, though, doesn't he?
That's
Knows
right.
He's picked his hole in the weed, gone in it, and knows the fish isn't going to waft it about
That's
and it
right.
get stuck in one edge or
Yeah,
something.
little 10mm bait, as subtle as you like. What about the PVA bag? You've had a lot on that. What's your thoughts on them?
Well, it's just been a nice, compact area of pellet.
Yeah.
And looking out, you can see clear spots in the weed from up the trees. You can
Yeah.
look down and see them. But there's this horrible silky weed in.
That's right.
Just want to drop on top of it.
Carp angler's nightmare, that
Yeah,
stuff.
drop on top of it and the pellet will flatten the weed out
Yeah.
and your rig's on top of it.
What bags have you been using?
I've been using proper solid bags, not mesh ones,
Right.
putting everything in,
Yeah, got
sitting the lead in one corner
Yeah.
and the bait in the other, so it goes down, the lead hits bottom first and then the bag breaks open.
Yeah, with the foam in the middle, so the foam pops up,
Yeah.
settles it on top of the
Yeah.
bag. I know, because the mesh bags, good for what they are, they're not any good on here because if you hook the bait and hook in the side of the bag, chuck it out normal style.
Yeah, you're not flattening the
it's
weed
just-
enough.
Well, the chances are the hook's still
Yeah.
as obvious there as it would be if it wasn't.
No, it was
If it wasn't in a
solid
PVA bag at all.
Yeah, solid bags all the way, and
Yeah.
it's worked for me all
And
the
of
time.
course, like the light leads and punch a few holes in the bags to take the air out of it, otherwise they sit on the surface
Yeah.
and then you lose a lot.
But it's also, when you balance it out, put
Yeah.
the lead on one side of the bag and your hook bait on the other,
Yeah.
because the bag will sink that way up.
Yeah,
So it'll go down, the lead will touch bottom first,
right.
and then the bag splits open,
Yeah.
and you've got it perfect then. It's the right
Dinner
way
plate
up.
from-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. It's been interesting because I've been fishing like 3/4 of the way across
Yeah.
to this willow that we can just see behind us, and the fish have been picking up fairly consistently during the day. Have all been on that method,
Right.
getting it over there.
Yeah, and the other one is that a lot of people find that awkward to tie that, but if you're using PVA string and cord, it is an awkward one because you're trying to hold the tension on the bag as well.
Yeah.
I always find those little strips you get of wire you get out of the freezer bags at the freezer shops, just cut a piece about 1 inch long, put the lead in there and right at the top of it twist it really
Yeah,
tight.
yeah,
And it doesn't impede the hook link at all, it's just all within that
No,
short
it
area
acts
there.
as a little bit of a sinker as well. I
Yeah.
must admit, I've done it with lead wire.
Yeah.
Just that little bit to keep
That's
the rig
right.
pinned down as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. All those little things that don't normally make a difference do on here and other waters, but on here, of course, you can see what's going on. If you take this, the actual, the intricacies of what you used on here this week, and on your other waters, you'll be fishing a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tricks that you can see that everybody's used, I mean, everybody's fished really hard this week, and you look at them, and every single little dodge has resulted in a fish.
Right.
Little tiny
Yeah.
changes,
It is just
and
that.
it's a fish on the bank.
Yeah. What was it? Did you have one about £18 yesterday?
Yeah, I picked one up
Morning?
well, it was late morning and the sun was just coming through. It was warming up a bit, and you could see him cruising onto the shallows.
Yeah, here we go again then.
Yeah, it was the bag trick.
Trap setting.
Over it went. I just sat up the tree. You could watch him going about, and then sure enough, eventually, off it
Goes.
went.
Down the tree we come, fast as you like.
That was that one.
Job done.
A lovely carp.
Yeah, and then because of your success here, because you're bagging up, we sent you on the old Ross on wire run for the food,
Yeah,
barbecues and all the rest of it.
Drew the short straw, had to go down
But was it the short straw? Because that meant you had to wind in and reset yourself when you come back. So that swim resting, which I've also found helps on here and anywhere else come like that. Just pull in for a little while. And
lines in the water.
They know that you're not around.
Yeah. Well, it was funny that, because I knew we were going down to the shop, so I baited up.
Yep.
Kilo
Give
of
them a little bit of
pellets,
confidence,
a little bit of ground
They
bait.
know.
And it went, rods are propped up in the tree,
Yeah.
off down the supermarket.
And they do come in on the baited, and they're not frightened
Yeah.
to come in. It's because they know they're that cocky with the rigs. They know they're coming in. The food's landing on the water there. In they come. There's not any danger from them at all.
Well, an hour and a half later, I came back from the shop,
Yeah.
walked straight into the swim, and there it was. They were feeding on the bait. As soon as I walked back in the swim.
Give us a story, then we're all waiting for it.
You mean I haven't told you? Walked into the swim, and it was just cloudy, top to bottom silt.
Is that little spot up there about a rod length out?
Little tiny in the edge plot, and it was all boiling away, and I had to wait for the fish to go out the swim.
Sure.
And I watched the dark shape go through all the cloud and do a bit of a circle, and I quickly put a bit of foam on, swung the bait out and the rig, bump,
Bang on the
the
spot.
spot, line slack, and I quite literally watched the fish circle round, come straight back in, feeding away, and I'm thinking, going to have one, going to have one. And I just saw a little boil. That's it, just a little boil, no panic.
Right.
And just watched the line kiting through the water.
Sure.
He hadn't spooked, he knew what was going on, was well aware of it. Give it a big and
Have it.
have it.
Well, we saw from the other side there, all the splashing going on, the commotion.
Oh,
He wasn't very pleased, he was angry, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was a cross old carp.
It's only shallow as well, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you're only looking at 2 foot of water, and off he went. And to play him in, he was giving me a little bit of grief. It's a bit awkward and a bit tight there, and he's down the edge, and there's a tree
Yeah.
there and all that. And it pops up onto the top, and I looked at it, and I couldn't believe the size of it. I just could not believe the size of it. Popped
The
up.
daddy. Or the mummy.
Well, it was just an immense fish. So long, so deep and so wide that you just, well, you can't describe the proportions of it.
No, considering in case you know what a good fish, doubles and 20s.
Yeah.
This thing was like an overgrown 20, wasn't it?
Oh, well, it was only the size of a 23, 24 sideways on.
Yeah.
But you turn it head on and you're talking like that.
Swallowed the football stuff.
Yeah. And of course, netted it and everybody heard me shout and run round. And there it was.
Beat that, eh? You're coming for, you can't no more catch the biggest, can you?
The biggest fish in the lake.
Fair play, mate. What was the weight of it again?
36 pounds of common carp.
35th time. Well, the thing is, they're not the prettiest carp, these spawny ones, but in the history of Redmire, apart from Carissa there, these big fish have been spawned up.
Yeah.
They are on a lot of waters, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the famous fish were
That's right.
big spawny fish. So, well, I just can't tell you how chuffed I am that it's just gone off.
I
It
don't
was
know if you know,
excellent.
though, that that's actually the third biggest common ever to swim in this lake. Behind Clarissa and Chris Yates' 4312, which is also spawned up.
You just wouldn't credit it. I mean, nearly 60 years on since it all started.
That's right.
And that turns up. What a week.
Amazing, isn't it? Well, I can do no more, Steve, than award you the honorary membership of the Redmire Old Boys Flat Cap Brigade by presenting you me flat cap. I've been quite attached to that, actually.
Well-
I've only worn it up here this week, but it's a pleasure to give it to you now.
Well,
Wear it with pride, my son.
This is the
Deserve
one.
it.
there we are. Feel
Fair
better
play, mate.
already.
Well, as if Dan weren't happy enough with no pelvics, he's gone and pulled out the bag at the other end of the lake.
Yeah,
22.12, wasn't it?
yeah, another nice common. He'd spent the time watching a little spot right on the shallow, right from up a tree.
Right, he's put that bait in the morning, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Early morning, this is what, 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah, gone back to it, seen him there, nutting about on the spot, feeding.
2 fish, weren't there?
Yeah, lowered a bait in.
Climbed up the tree to get a better vantage point.
What happened?
Next thing you know, he's climbing down the tree a lot faster than he went up.
There was that competition for food. One of them was, he said, was really wary of the rig, see it down there, but wanted the food bad enough, and his mate came in. They both got a bit overconfident, and which led to one of them making a mistake there.
Yeah.
But what 4 days down's there? I don't think there's anyone else has ever caught fish from both the record swims in the same session, that's for sure. Well, no one fishes the spot where Chris Yates caught that.
No,
a
it's right.
51-pound mirror, because you've got jumping up to your waist right in the mud, the actual mire, we'll call it, shall we?
Yeah.
Here, and the rest of these captures have been from Dick Walker's willow we caught Clarissa.
Excellent angling.
I think just say. Well, Broady, it's time we were off, I suppose.
Yeah, but we've had it off these last few days. It's been
Sure have.
proper good angling.
Yeah, who was it once said this is a mecca for carp owners? Jack Hilton, wasn't it? Quest
Yeah.
for carp. He
And
didn't get
it's
too
lovely.
far wrong, did he? eh?
No, he got it spot on. I mean, look at it. It's just like being in somebody's back garden. Just absolutely immaculate. Nothing out of place. Even some of the lads leave nuts, little bird nuts tied to the trees, and you've got swims full of little birds
Yeah.
flitting about. It's a proper place, mate.
Sure is, mate. Anyway, it's time we were going,
Yeah,
mate.
better take these with us.
We sure had. The flags of victory, mate. The flags of victory.
Well, those old boys must have done well to find this 50 odd years ago, mustn't they?
Yeah, the old Morris miners stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, bumping down that track. Anyway,
Oh, mate,
talking of driving, you better jump in the driver's seat to get home.
Me driving?
Yeah, you drive.
You're joking me?
Yeah,
I don't think so. You just caught a
Well, I've
£36
got to
common,
wave at all
mate.
my fans on the way back now.
Yeah, but if you're driving, you'll be able to stop for some for autographs as and when you need.
Oh, I think it's time to get your hand in your wallet when we go past that first pub and all.
Yeah, but if you caught a fish like such as you have, I think it'd be you buying the pipe, wouldn't it?
Well, we might just do that then.
Come on, lad, let's get it off down that pub.